When Grey Zone Warfare first launched, most of us thought we knew what the game was going to try to be. But after watching Madfinger's latest preview, I think the future of this game might be a lot bigger than people realize. They just did a interview process about a few days ago, or just a day ago, I can't remember exactly, but there was just a recent video posted about them attending some sort of event, or the Czech DevCon, so to speak. And that it's a very small community of just Czech developers that all come together. Well, essentially, it's kind of addressing the upcoming patches, PvP changes, and updates of 0.5 teasers as well. So it's all very awesome things coming. I guess we'll just kind of dive into it, right? So one thing they did mention was custom servers. Now, they didn't mention exactly that there's going to be private servers, but they did mention that custom servers is coming with moderation / admin tools to make it easier to manage. And then they couldn't say it directly, but essentially they said private servers are just servers that you can manage and that are hosted by the player with dev tools to manage them. And they're making dev tools to manage these kind of servers. So yeah, put that together is basically what they're saying. So a few things that did get brought up was the actual feeling of the team and the developers as well. And they did mention that players do feel kind of miserable whenever they kind of tease something, but we don't know much more about it or when to anticipate its release. Well, they said basically when these things happen or when they start to tease things, this is no more than a few months before it's released. So don't be discouraged whenever you hear an awesome system and you're like, oh my God, I have to wait probably a year for that. Or is that's going to be a 0.5 update? That's not the case, right? So I guess that's going to be a major turning point as well. So let's get right into one of the biggest things they talked about on this live stream. So that's going to be conflict zones, or kind of combat outposts or cops and fobs, and how they're going to work moving forward, especially with the next patch. They're not talking about 0.5, they're talking about 0.4.4. So that's going to be something to look forward to. Essentially, they wanted to talk about conflict zones. The larger the better is what they indicated, that the new conflict zone that they're wanting to output is 200 meters wide, as well as the previous one being about 150 meters. So that's going to be increasing about 50 meters. And the center of the new conflict zone is going to be based around the victim, so it does not reveal the attacker's position like the current version does. So for example, if I'm sitting in a bush, there's no conflict zone around me, and a poor soul walks in front of me and I take him out, now the conflict zone is going to be based around him. Even if I'm 100 meters or 200 meters away, it's not going to be on the very edge of the circle indicating exactly where I am. It's going to be based around the player who died. So that's going to be a great change, and we love to see that, especially when it comes to sniping, because it just kind of felt bad when you shot somebody over 150 meters and the conflict zone indicated exactly where you were. The following change, including the conflict zones here, is going to be the first victim will go back to the closest cop, not the fob, which is the forward operations base. And to be clear on this, the cops are the little indicators around the map, the little locations, as the fobs are the 3-star locations that have more AI and have the chance of spawning vulture in them. So just so you guys are aware. As it's frustrating to be shot and killed first, they said that the first victim's going to be sent to the closest cop. It's not the fob, which is what a lot of people are kind of saying that they want to have happen, so players aren't just respawning and coming back to the fight initially. But when you're the first player out of your squad to immediately get one-tapped and your teammates have time to react because, well, they watched you fall, it's kind of frustrating, and they understand this. So they indicated that you're going to be able to respawn and join the fight, as opposed to spawning at a fob and just kind of listening to your friends hash it out while you were dead, right? So following players killed in the conflict zone after the initial person was eliminated, they are not going to go to a closest cop. They will be sent all the way to the closest fob. And yes, this is a great change, as we want to see the fights kind of come to an end at some point when you come across other people or even at cop locations. So this is something that we're going to look forward to and be very happy about. And currently the cops can be taken, or fobs, I guess you can say, they can be taken, and then immediately, if you are not in the area and an enemy player comes in, can take it back immediately as well, and that just spawns more AI and causes a lot of panic and confusion because you just cleared it out and took it out, but some guy was ratting in a corner and decided to take it back just so his AI can spawn faster because he had teammates on the outside eliminating your AI, right? So how are they going to combat this? They said within the next patch, their goal for PvP in the game is not about controlling cops or fighting for territory like it is currently now. It's not, and I quote, it's not like Reforger or Arma or whatever have you, as quoted by the CEO of Madfinger Games, but PvP should be more natural, opportunistic, and not just for bases. So they are pushing this update where the cops and or fobs will be taken, and they will put on a quote-unquote cooldown to be taken from an enemy faction for 20 to 30 minutes, requiring the users to actually be able to defend it and lead to an awesome PvP situation, whereas before or now it's going to be constant fighting and over this cop, and a lot of people are just going to be respawning in a nearby area, and it just causes a lot of confusion, and it just doesn't seem like these situations stop, where this puts them more of a stopping point and allows for more PvP to come across more naturally rather than just fighting by people sitting in corners at cop locations or fob locations. An interesting idea that I wanted to bring up was not specifically specified on the stream, but I wanted to talk about a potential system based around a quote-unquote living world. So an idea of mine would be kind of faction influence and changing control of the evolving world around you. Right now, Lemang, or I guess Gray Zone map as a whole, feels mostly static as there's not a lot of changes. What happens if the map starts changing because of player actions, such as taking cops and or taking fobs, or just having conflict zones in certain areas? Are these locations going to become off limits, or is there going to be chain reactions of owning certain cops in an area puts a delay on being able to take certain fobs in the area, so on and so forth? I like this kind of idea as it makes it, as I said before, a living world, whereas players will interact against other players, and that will change the dynamic of PvP versus just either coming across random people or coming across random LZs and some guy just so happens to land there, or as we all know now, with the new changes, this might change, but fighting over cops or fobs directly. So I wanted to see what you guys think of that. Now let's get into exactly what the CEO of Madfinger Games actually wanted to talk about, and they said that, like always, the 0.4 launch could have been better. There's always work to be done, and it is stable now with good feedback on all changes made, which is great to hear. And they did also state that they know that the game is not in a full release section, or like kind of like a full release game right now, and they want to finish the game, but they know that there is still time and development to be done before. Actually, the CEO did mention that he knows exactly where the game's going to go and how it's supposed to end, but we can't get there yet because we have to get through a lot of things to make the game that they truly want. So they did mention that 0.5 will bring more enjoyment to the end game experience, whereas tasking is very repetitive right now, and this is where crafting can come in, and crafting is not just crafting like, and I quote, like Tarkov or DayZ. You are an employee of Gray Zone Warfare or your faction that you are on. Therefore, they talked about, well, crafting. What is crafting going to be? It's going to be something very, very specific. It's not going to be like as they just said, like a Tarkov, you're going to be crafting a gun or crafting ammo just for your stuff. Just remember, you're an employee of a faction, so why would you need to craft your own ammo? And they mentioned that the crafting will better serve the story and is already pretty set in the storyline and how it's supposed to revolve towards the end game. Whereas if you want to do something for your hiring company that the company doesn't seem to really like, or revealing too much information about what the Ground Zero actually has, as all players are quote-unquote employees, as we mentioned before, just note that all the factions and or employees really want to know what is going on in Ground Zero. Yes, I mean, as players we do too, but even in the story they do as well. So they're going to have to build something. Now, this is where the crafting comes in. This is what they stated about the crafting. This is where they're going to have to, as I just said, build something such as underneath the radar, or just kind of inconspicuous at your main fob potentially, or at fobs around the world that are needed to access the Ground Zero location. They said that these items will be very expensive things, and you will need to prepare something or create some kind of pipeline for better income for your faction or even yourself to lead yourself into the end game and quote unquote craft this object or whatever is needed in order to access that Ground Zero. Now, they did say that the squad progression or squad shared tasking is something that's going to be coming soon, but not necessarily the next patch, as well as DLSS 4.5 support, so that's going to be pretty awesome. But they're also trying to address the repetitive task situation and the optimization of the game, as certain points of the game do feel a little laggy depending on what you're doing and certain effects are on the screen. And not to mention, the AI of the world is going to be worked on, as they just said on the live stream. They actually showed the wanting poster, quote unquote, of AI programmers and an AI lead dev programmer as well. So that's kind of funny, as they said, and I quote, they're looking for local hot AI programmers in their area. So they're a pretty funny team, but just keep that in mind that they're wanting to do a better system based on the feedback that we've provided. So that kind of wraps up exactly what they talked about in the live stream. So which upcoming features are you most excited about? Or what does Gray Zone still need before 1.0? Let me know down in the comments, as I'd love to discuss it more further with you guys, and maybe we can get some feedback to Madfinger Games, as they are always listening to feedback and always are asking people to hit that Shift plus F12 button while they're in game and address any issues, whether it be a question or even a bug issue within the game. So make sure you're doing that, and they are looking at all of them. So thanks guys for watching. Please be sure to check out my other videos, and I'll see you next time.